listen here.
Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Pesach class on Pesach. This year is a unique year, in that Pesach falls on a day following Shabbos, which is a very seldom occurrence.
How are you?
Rabbi,
how are you?
Baruch Hashem. Let's get everyone to mute themselves. Okay. While people are coming, wait a minute. Let's let people come in. Okay. So let's get into it. Pesach, as you know, there's two parts of Pesach. There's the things that we are not allowed to do on Pesach, and there are the things that we have to do on Pesach. The sur meirah, the don't do's, and then there's the do's. It's like every other time, and it's like every other mitzvah, like Shabbos and holidays, the things you're not allowed to do on Shabbos, and then there are things you have to do on Shabbos. So Pesach is coupled with many more laws, because there's many more things that you're not allowed to do. The primary thing is, of course, staying away from anything that is chametz. People are just coming in, so I have to let them in. So I'm just making sure that happens. Okay. And the positive aspects of Pesach, which are the things that you have to do, are, of course, Matsura, Morid, Seder, and all that we all do every year. The things that we are not allowed to do, which is chametz, is a preoccupation before Pesach. In other words, we are busy before Pesach in ridding ourselves from all the different elements of chametz, as I will get into in a few minutes. And from now, the different ways we get rid of chametz. There are basically three ways. But before I get into that, let me just tell you in general what the Torah says about the prohibition about chametz. When it comes to chametz, unlike other prohibitions in the Torah which are related to food, for example, you're not allowed to eat non-kosher food. But that's the prohibition, not to eat not something that isn't kosher. But nowhere does it say in the Torah that you're not allowed to own something that's not kosher. If you own a pig, you haven't done anything terrible, right? If you own a non-kosher piece of meat, you haven't done anything. Let me just open the door 1 second, sorry. Sorry about that. There are people that are coming in person, so when it comes to chametz, the Torah says not only are you not allowed to eat chametz, but you're not allowed to possess chametz. You're not allowed to own chametz, and not only are you not allowed to own a lot of chametz, you're not allowed to even own a tiny bit of chametz. As the words in the sages, mashuhu. Mashuhu means even a crumb. You're not allowed to consciously own any chametz, even a crumb of chametz. That is why, I want to pull up a table and sit there. This is why Jewish men and women before Pesach have had the custom for thousands of years now to do what we call Pesach cleaning, to get rid of literally every vestige of chametz that they can find. Now, This is what makes Pesach so difficult. It's not so much because we're not allowed to eat chametz, it's because we're not allowed to even own chametz. And that's why, if it was just a sin to eat chametz, so we wouldn't eat chametz, you wouldn't have to clean out, you wouldn't have to sell, you wouldn't have to do anything of that. You would just not eat chametz. But that's not what it is. The prohibition is to even own chametz, to have any chametz that belongs to you in your possession. Now, when it comes to that, let me mention that the prohibition is to own, that you're not allowed to possess chametz in your house, chametz that belongs to you. But chametz that belongs to someone who's not Jewish is not a prohibition for you to have it in your house. As long as it is sealed away where you can't by mistake go over and take of it and eat of it, God forbid, you are you're not in any violation if you have chametz in your possession. The violation is if you own that chametz. Okay. There are a number of ways that we rid ourselves of chametz. Number one, you have to nullify the chametz. What does nullify chametz mean? Nullify does not mean sell. Nullify means something else. We'll get to sell in a minute. Nullify chametz means that you make a declaration. The declaration says that the chametz is not yours. I say, there's a text, and I'll show it to you in a minute. I have it over here. I'll share the screen with you in a minute. It's a text that says, any chametz that is in my possession, I give up ownership of it. It's as if it's dust of the earth. Now, imagine someone has a store full of chametz. A store full of chametz. Or if you have, forget about a store. Let's say you have a closet, a pantry full of chametz. You have 10 boxes of pasta, you have another 5 bags of flour, you have all kinds of chametz. Like you go into every pantry, you see what it is. It's full of chametz. Could someone just say before Pesach, I hereby nullify all this whole pantry? Could you do that and make it, I hereby make it ownerless? Could that technically be possible? Is that technically a viable or legitimate way to nullify your chametz? The answer is it's not. Sure. You cannot do that. And the reason for this is because the rabbis knew, and everyone knows, that when you make such a declaration, you don't mean it. No one is serious about making $500 or more worth of chametz ownerless. You're not going to throw away. You're not going to make it ownerless. It means nothing because it's not a serious declaration. You're not serious when you say it. Who's not on you? You're not serious. You're not going to do it right. What about chametz that is, you don't want it? You have you may have a rotten bagel somewhere in your house that you didn't find, and you make it ownerless. You declare this, if there's a rotten bagel in my house, I hereby declare it ownerless. And it's not mine anymore. Does that help? On the biblical level, that does help. That means technically, before Pesach, every Jew can clean up his house more or less, and then he doesn't have to make no search. He doesn't have to go in with a fire, with a candle, with a feather, with a spoon, the whole thing with the bedikat chametz. You just make a declaration before Pesach starts. Whatever I got out of my house, great. Whatever I didn't find, whatever I didn't clean, is, again, that's not chametz, it's ownerless. Or furthermore, it could even be that you don't have to clean your house for Pesach. You obviously take away the big pantry full of chametz. You can't. No one's going to make that ownerless. So that you sell to a non-Jew, which we'll talk about in a minute. And the rest of your chametz, stuff that are here, not there, not here. Maybe it's all around the house that you don't even know. A chametz stick of candy in your kid's knapsack, or a bagel in your whatever in your somewhere you didn't see it. in a cupboard or whatever. Make it ownerless. You don't have to bother with burning chametz and searching for chametz and cleaning your whole house. Bittul chametz is enough on the biblical level. It should help. So why do we go through the trouble of not only nullifying the chametz, but we actually go and clean the whole house? And the night before Pesach, we go with a candle and we search the chametz, and then we burn the chametz the next day. Why do we do all that? The rabbis they instituted that we will not rely on the nullification of chametz. Why not? Because, as I said, what happens if you didn't clean your house and you made everything ownerless, except the obvious chametz that you don't want to throw away, you sold, so you can buy it back after chametz or after Pesach. But the stuff that you don't know and you don't see and it's not in your mind, bittul, it's nullified, end of story. What's the problem? The problem the rabbis were worried is in the middle of Pesach, you'll look for something under your bed and you'll find over there candy. Or your son will find the candy, your kid will find the candy there. And it's chametz. Imagine it's a wafer or whatever else it is. Suddenly you're so used to eating chametz all year round, before you're not even thinking, subconsciously, you open up the wrapper, in your mouth, it's done, it's down your gullet. You just ate chametz. The rabbis were worried about this. That people will find chametz on Pesach. You don't make them clean the house and search it out and burn it, you will, and just allow them to nullify it and do this technical act. There's going to be problems. There's no doubt there's going to be problems. That's why we go through the house and they said it's not enough to nullify the chametz, you have to actually burn the chametz. Which means you have to search for it, clean out the house thoroughly, get it out of everywhere you think you can have, and there's a lot of funny places people put chametz throughout the year. In the kids' pockets, in your own pockets, in their knapsacks. You have to go through it all. The closets and the drawers, you name it, especially if you have little kids. And even if you don't, you should clean your house before Pesach. That's what we call the bedikat chametz. The night before Pesach, we search for the chametz. In addition to nullifying it, we actually do a formal search. Then the next day, we actually burn it. And then, with the pantry stuff, which you don't want to get rid of, that the rabbis devised something called mechiras chametz, to sell the chametz. You find a non-Jew, now you can't do it, because it's a very technical, there's a lot of details in this contract of sale. You have to rely on a competent rabbi that knows how to do it, and he sells the chametz for everyone in his community, and then he buys it back at the end of Pesach. And during those 8.5 days, it does not belong to you. And therefore, if it doesn't belong to you, there's nothing wrong if it's in your possession. There's nothing wrong if it's in your possession. Because as I said, which chametz is prohibited for you to have in your house is the chametz that you own. As long as you don't own it, you're fine. So you got the three methods of getting rid of chametz. The first thing, for weeks before Pesach, you search the whole house. You clean it out the night before, you go with an actual formal search, which we make a blessing. Now, what happens if you searched your house and you didn't search good enough? You went through everything, but you missed a drawer. You missed under a cupboard, in your closet. You missed it. You didn't find everything. So the rabbis came up with another device, another way. Right after we search the chametz, we can nullify the chametz. We make a declaration. I'm going to share it with you on the screen. Where is it? Where is it? Thought I had it. No, that's not it. Okay, anyway, I thought I had it. I did have it. Oh, here maybe. Here it is. Okay, here it is. Okay. Right here. Okay, take a look here. So over here you have the Erev Pesach, the order of the search for the chametz. If you'll take a look, when you do the search, You make the blessing. What you have to do is, the minhag is, the custom is, that someone in the house, the person that's not doing the search, should put out 10 pieces of chametz all around and make a list where you put them so you don't forget. And the person goes around the house while he checks, he finds those 10 pieces. Now, this turned into a game, unfortunately, in a lot of homes. It's like a game of hide and seek. I hide 10 pieces, someone goes and finds them, and it's la la la, it's great. That's not what this is about. The reason we hide 10 pieces is because what happens, most Jewish homes, by the time the night before Pesach comes, the house is spotless from chametz. There's no chametz anywhere. They went through, they really cleaned it all out. So it is very possible you make the blessing right here on the screen. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kitshanu v'nisvosav v'tzivanu al bir chametz, to check and burn the chametz, and then you'll go around your whole house, you won't come up with anything. Because it's spotless. You might not. Maybe yeah. Maybe you didn't clean it 100%. So maybe you will find some, but maybe not. So the rabbis didn't want a person to go through the whole house and not find anything, so there's nothing to burn. So they said, put out 10 pieces. But it's not about finding those 10 pieces. It's about searching the house to make sure that your house is clean of chametz, just so that you don't come up not with nothing because your wife did such a good job and you helped her, and you both did such a good job that you may not find anything, so the rabbis instituted, will put out so you come up and you have something to burn. But it's a real search. Afterwards, this is where I want to get to. If you take a look, at the end of the search, we say a 3-line statement over here that is the bittul chametz. This is where we nullify the chametz. We say, all leaven is right up here on the screen. All leaven or anything leaven which is in my possession, which I have neither seen nor removed, I didn't find it, so I didn't remove it, and about which I'm unaware, shall be considered naught and ownerless as the dust of the earth. Now this is helps for the things you didn't find. It's somewhere in your house, maybe, but you don't want to own it, because if you do own it, you're in violation. So we say it's ownerless, just in case you didn't find every last piece of chametz. Okay. So that's what you do on the night before Pesach. I'm going to get to in about 5 minutes what happens this year. This is a unique year. The next morning, we burn the chametz, right? That which we found on Friday, on the night of the bedika of the search. We take it the next morning and we burn it. There's a specific time which we'll get into, of course. That during that time, you burn the chametz. After you burn the chametz, you do the bittul, the nullification again. And it's on the same page over here. Why do we do it again? Because let's say you search the chametz at night, but you want to eat breakfast the next morning, right? So you leave over a couple of bagels, a couple of whatever, and you're going to have chametz the next morning. What happens if a piece of that bagel fell somewhere? Did you nullify that piece? No. Last night you were planning to still eat it. So certainly you didn't make it ownerless. You want it. We're worried that some of the chametz you left over for the morning of Pesach to eat, some of it will be left over, and you'll forget to throw it away. It'll fall somewhere somewhere under the table or somewhere else, and you will not burn it, and it's there, it's yours. You're now in violation. So they said, do the bittul chametz once again, and this is we read it over here. It says over here, all leaven or anything leaven which is in my possession, whether I've seen it or not, whether I have observed it or not, whether I've removed it or not, because at this point we removed everything, we burnt everything, shall be considered naught and ownerless as the dust of the earth. Okay, and once we do all that, we've covered everything. Now, in addition to that, you sell the chametz that you want to have till after Pesach, and you don't want to throw away good stuff. You want to have a full pantry, you're not going to throw away everything. So that you go to the rabbi, he sells it for you, and that you can, and then we buy back after. So those are the 3 methods of getting rid of chametz. Is that clear? Very good. Now let's talk about how we do this year. This year presents us with certain challenges. So I'll go in order. Let me stop this here. I'll go in order. The order is like this. The first thing, every year we know that on Erev Pesach, the day of the Seder, let's say the Seder is Friday night, that Friday will be a fast day for the firstborn. Right? It's the fast of the firstborn, huh?
Could I, as the second son, fast for my brother?
No. This has nothing to do with the second son. This is all about the first son. Then no one, so if you can't, you can't. You don't have to. The problem is this year, Pesach is Saturday night. So Erev Pesach is Shabbos. We can't fast on Shabbos. So when do we do the fast? On Friday. We don't want to bother, we don't want to go into Shabbos hungry either like that. So we move it back to Thursday. The fast of the firstborn this year will be next Thursday, in a week from tomorrow. But we all know that the rabbis had, in their love for the Jewish people, they came up with a method that the Jews should not have to pain themselves Erev Pesach to fast. What's this thing? It's called a siyum. You conclude a tractate of Talmud. If someone makes a conclusion of a tractate of Talmud, or if there's a bris happening that day and you're at the bris, you can take part of the meal, because once you are part of a meal that's associated with a mitzvah, whether it's a completion of a tractate, which is a mitzvah celebration, so once you're eating at that moment, you can eat for the rest of the day. So that's a way to get out of this fast. That's for the firstborn. It's going to be this year, next Thursday. Don't forget. And we'll have it over here in the morning. We'll make the siyum at 7 o'clock. We'll daven, and then 7:30, a quarter to 8, we'll make the siyum. Don't miss it. Huh? Okay. This fast is only if you're a firstborn son, and if you're the father of firstborn son who's under bar mitzvah, the father has to fast. And if he doesn't want to fast, the father has to be present at the siyum, at this completion of the tractate. Okay. Now, being that Shabbos this year is Erev Pesach, so everything is going to be moved back by one day. But it's interesting because it's not so simple. Here's where we start. The search for the chametz will be Thursday night. You'll do the exact search as you do every year, the 10 pieces, the whole with the nullification afterwards. You'll do everything exactly as you do it every year. You'll then put away enough chametz to eat for Friday morning, Friday day, Friday night, and Shabbos morning. Because the time that you're not allowed to start eating chametz is Shabbos at 11:17 a.m. So you have to now, after you searched your whole house, you have to have enough chametz to last for you to eat Friday morning, Friday night, Shabbos morning, which we'll get to in a minute. What you should be eating on these meals, because it's not so simple. Clear? Good. Friday morning, you have to burn the chametz. Now, every year, why do we burn the chametz? It says in the calendar, what do I have it there? It says in the calendar exactly what time, by this and this time you have to burn the chametz. What's usually that time? I think over here, this year it's about 12:15 or 12:20 or something, somewhere between 12:15 and 12:20. I'll get the guide in a minute and I'll tell you. Why do we burn the chametz at that funny time? Every year. Let's say Pesach started Friday night. So Friday we would burn the chametz. You look in the calendar, it says, burn the chametz by 12:17, let's say. What's this 12:17 thing? Why can't I burn it at 1:17 or 2:17 or 3:17? The reason is because the Torah says very clearly, when does the prohibition against having chametz start? At midday, Erev Pesach. So if let's say midday, Erev Pesach would be, if Pesach would be Friday night, midday would be Friday at midday. When is midday? The exact midpoint between sunrise and sundown. Okay, whenever sunrise is and sundown, you go to midpoint. Right? In places where the days are long, it's depending when it is, yeah. So 12:17 represents not midday, by the way. 12:17 is not midday. It's an hour before midday. Why did the rabbi say you should burn your chametz an hour before midday? The time of the biblical time of getting rid of your chametz starts midday. Why are they telling you to burn it an hour before? And you're in big trouble if you don't burn it an hour before. The reason is the rabbis were afraid. If you tell people, if the biblical time is at, let's say, 1:17, and you said, by 1:17, I want you to burn your chametz. You always have these procrastinators. You have all the lazy people, they run late. That 1:17 is 1:18, 1:20, it's around the time. It's around the right time. What you did was, if you go 2, 3, 5 minutes late, you've now violated the biblical law against possessing chametz. So the rabbis made a fence around a protection that you shouldn't violate the biblical law of possessing chametz at the wrong time. So they say, you know what? We know the Jews. They don't get that. Their clock stopped. They lost their watch. They don't know what time it is. An hour before, that's it. You got to get rid of it an hour before. And it's no joke. You have to do it. You can't have it after an hour before.
It doesn't give you an hour to the actual time?
An hour to the actual time. That's what I'm saying. If they want you to be done with it an hour before.
But I don't have that hour to play with.
You don't have that hour to play with. Absolutely not. They just said that if you became lazy and you woke up late, you didn't get around to it, and you did it 5 minutes late, it's a terrible, terrible sin, but at least you're not violating the biblical sin. You get it? Now here's something interesting. When you look at the calendar, it says, when do you have to stop eating chametz? I just talked about when you have to burn the chametz. When are you no longer allowed to eat chametz? It's even an hour before that. So if the midday, let's say I'm going to do round hours. Let's say midday was 12 o'clock. Sunrise was 6 in the morning, sunset is 6 in the evening, so the midday is 12 o'clock. The rabbis say by 11 have it burned. By 10 finish eating. 2 hours before. Why? Because there was a time where there were no clocks. People didn't have clocks. There were no clocks. So how did they know when things are? They looked at the sun, where the sun is. If it's in the middle of the sky, they knew it's midday. That's why they were afraid. They were midday. Don't know exactly when midday is. So they made it an hour before. Right? For the procrastinators, and also you're not 100% sure either. What happens if it's cloudy outside? It's cloudy outside. You don't even know when the sun is up there. So you can't even see it. So that's why they said, just in case it's a cloudy day, we're getting you guys out of eating at 10 o'clock. So 10 o'clock, 2 hours before midday, we're stopping you eating. Just in case, because 1 year, if you don't, if we go to 11 is already getting close to the time when biblically, when you're not allowed to eat the chametz anymore, right? They were worried about a cloudy day. You still think it's about 10 o'clock in the morning, when really it's already 11 o'clock. Or even 12, you don't know. They got you far away, even further away, 2 hours before. And again, this is no joke. You can't say, well, it's only the rabbis and they're worried. We have clocks, we have everything. Once the rabbis made it a prohibition, it remains that way forever and we stick to it. So that's why you're going to see in the calendar, we sent out a holiday guide yesterday, you should get it in the next couple of days. It gives you exact times. The eating is always an hour before the burning, and the burning is going to be an hour before midday. That's understood, yeah? We do the burning. I do it in my house. You can come to my house, yeah. Now, this year, so the question is, this year is a very big question. Here, listen here. This year, the question is a very interesting question. You're going to look in the calendar, you're going to see that it says to eat, it's going to say to burn your chametz at 12:17 or something like that. Now that makes no sense. Because this year you can really eat chametz till Shabbos morning, you can still eat chametz. So what do you care if I burn my chametz at 5 o'clock Friday afternoon, 10 minutes before Shabbos? I'm fully within my rights to keep the chametz even till Shabbos morning. The only problem is I can't burn it Shabbos morning. So I'll burn it right before Shabbos. What's this 12:17 on a year like this? You understand the question? The answer is the rabbis were again afraid. You tell a Jew you can burn his chametz this year 5 o'clock. Watch what happens next year. Last year I burnt it in the afternoon, so why? That looks like that was okay. When you'll have Erev Pesach, not on Shabbos, when you really have to do it at 12:17, he's going to remember that last year I did it at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, so he'll do it this year also 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The rabbi said, we're not making any differences. It's an hour before midday always, even though this year technically you're right, you don't really have to do it an hour before midday, but they instituted it should be done then anyway, even though you do really have the rest of the day. And again, this is no kidding. It's not a game. You really have to do it when they instituted to do it, because once they instituted that way, we have to keep to it. Any questions up to this point? If you have any questions, please unmute yourself and be free to ask. Yeah.
The extra hour for eating is because it's different punishment?
No, the extra hour for eating because they were afraid of a cloudy day. Not by burning, no. Because the prohibition against eating is much worse than the prohibition against possessing. Yeah. So they left, burn your chametz till an hour before, but can't eat 2 hours before. Okay. Now, here comes the interesting thing. So again, Thursday night you're gonna search for your chametz. Friday morning you're gonna burn it. But now comes the question, we have to eat. What do you eat on Shabbos? Friday afternoon after you burnt your chametz, are you allowed to still eat chametz? Are you allowed to eat chametz after you burnt the chametz this year? You're burning it on Friday morning at 12:17, Friday noon. Are you still allowed to eat chametz? Of course, you can eat chametz till Shabbos morning. Because Shabbos morning is when Pesach starts Shabbos afternoon. Yeah? The prohibition starts Pesach midday. Shabbos midday. So, the truth is you could eat chametz after you burn the chametz. However, here's the problem. What kind of chametz are you going to eat? And where are you going to eat it? Your house is already completely clean for chametz, for Pesach. If you're going to start eating chametz after the time that you burnt it, so either you eat it, there's no problem, you can eat it, you can leave a little bit of chametz if you want, for Friday afternoon snack or whatever, and eat it outside of the house so you don't get your house messed up with crumbs and chametz and all that kind of thing. But technically you could eat it. But most people, by the time Shabbos, so Friday afternoon you could do that. Because before Shabbos, whatever's left over, you can get rid of it. You throw it out, you throw it out of your house and that's it. Whatever's left over, you throw out of your house and there's no problem. But what about on Shabbos itself? On Shabbos itself, what if you still have chametz in your house on Shabbos, what are you doing with it? You can't burn it. You can't throw it away. Where are you going to throw it? You can't put it in your garbage can. Your garbage can is yours. It's still yours.
Ducks.
Huh?
Ducks.
Which ducks?
My ducks.
If you can give it to animals to eat and they eat it before the time of the chametz, yeah, that's in the solution. But it's not so simple. Because they can leave over and then so therefore, every normal Jewish home this year, they're going to prepare for Friday night a Pesach meal. Pesach food. Pesach food. Same thing with Shabbos morning. Shabbos lunch will be Pesach food. But it's still not so simple. Because you have to eat chametz that Shabbos. Why? Because we have a mitzvah on Friday night and Shabbos morning and Shabbos lunch to eat meals with challah. You have to break challah, 2 breads, right? You have to have 2 breads for Friday night and 2 breads for Shabbos morning, 2 challahs. To break bread on a double portion, right? We have a double portion on Shabbos, right? To remember the manna. Oh, yes or no? Good. So how do you deal with this? You have to, now, I have a simple solution. On a regular Pesach, on a regular Shabbos in the summer, let's say in the middle of July, I'm not in the mood of challah, all right? Could I eat matzah? I can buy a box of Manischewitz matzah, and make my break and have Friday night 2 matzahs instead of two challahs. No problem. So why don't we just do that on Friday night? Break bread on 2 matzahs, Pesach matzah. It's the easiest solution. Why can't we do that? That's not an option. Why? Because we know that Erev Pesach, you're not allowed to eat matzah. In honor of the Seder, to go into the Seder with an appetite for matzah, the rabbis prohibited eating matzah Erev Pesach. It's an absolute prohibition to touch matzah Erev Pesach, the day before the Seder. So you're not allowed to eat matzah. So what do you break? So how do you eat? How do you do the mamotzi on Friday night and Shabbos morning? The answer is you do it on challah, on chametz de challah. Now it's not Pesach yet, so you're allowed to. But the problem is that now you have an issue because you have to have. What you have to do is you have to buy for that Shabbos. I would suggest that depending on how many people are in your house, I got news for you. I'm going to have about 28 people in my house. Not about, but 28 people are staying from my house for the 8 days of Pesach.
In your house?
Yeah, my kids and grandkids. All 28 of us. It's very good. And, so you got to have enough challah to give all these 28 people. Or, in your case, 2 people, whatever it is. So based on the amount of people you have to measure out how much challah you need. What I would suggest if you're 2 people, go to Aroma and buy 3 little challah rolls. 3 challah rolls. You'll use 2 for Friday night. You'll only open up 1 of them and finish everything you opened up. Just finish the 2, that 1 challah. And the other 2 you'll leave for Friday morning, Shabbos morning, because you need 2 for Shabbos morning also, right? So you broke on 2 challahs Friday night, you put 1 away for Shabbos morning, and then you have another 1 for Shabbos. It's a total of 3. You get it? And on Shabbos morning, you have to finish eating those 2 whole challahs. You can't leave anything over. There's nothing to do with it. There's nowhere to throw it. The leftovers, there's nowhere to throw it. Now, if you have a few crumbs, you can flush it down the toilet.
Is this before services?
No, before 11:17, before the time where you're no longer allowed to eat hummus. Shabbos morning at 11:17, you're no longer allowed. And what am I going to do in the synagogue? No, very good question. What are you doing? We're all in shul at 11:15. The answer is next Shabbos we're davening at 8 o'clock instead of 10 o'clock. To be finished by 10 o'clock, so everyone can go home and eat their little hummus that they have to eat, because that's an obligation, so you'll be done by 11:17. And after 11:17, you could go into your dining room, have a beautiful Pesach meal. The rest of the meal could be Pesach dik. Could be non-chametz. And that's what you should do. Where should you eat those 2 challahs? Friday night and Shabbos morning, bring everyone outside into your patio, eat it very carefully on a tablecloth, on a plastic tablecloth, and clean it off, eat it up, and flush down the toilet the crumbs, and that's it. Your house is now clean for chametz. There's nothing left. You burnt everything on Friday morning. The little bit that you had for Friday day, you also finished or you threw out, and the 3 challahs that you absolutely must have, you'll finish all of it on Shabbos morning. Not in my case, where there's a lot of people in the house. We're going to have a lot of rolls, but it'll be measured properly to feed these people. It's going to be complicated. It's not complicated, but yeah, it's going to be something that we're going to have to be very on top of. That little kid shouldn't run around with it's going to be very, very, we'll go out, we'll make kiddush, 10 minutes the challah, it's eaten up, and then everyone goes, you wash your mouth, everyone goes in, the rest of you go with dishes that are Pesach dik, and your cutlery, all Pesach dik. And yes, we'll daven at 8 o'clock in the morning for this very reason next week. And it's customary to daven quick. So the people that have to take a long walk home should be able to get home on time as well. So we have you in mind too. Now the question is, many will ask, is there anyone have a question? Is this clear to everyone? Yeah.
Do you make a second year? When do we do?
Oh, very good. Thank you. Shabbos morning, we said that you have to finish your chametz, the kechalos, those couple of chalos, at 11:17. I think that's the time. But we are going to then, you see, usually every year, I put up on the screen over here, when do we do this? When do we do the second nullification right here on the page that I just, right after we burn the Hummus, right? We burn the Hummus or wherever you burn, and then you say the second nullification. Over here, we're not going to do it Friday after we burn the Hummus. Over here, we're going to wait till Shabbos morning, after 11:17. Because now, you ate Friday night some Hummus, you ate Friday day some Hummus, you ate Shabbos morning some Hummus, and just in case one of your little kids ran around with a piece of challah and he left it under your couch. And you're not going to find it. Just in case, yeah? What do? That you own that Hummus now, you're in violation. So we make another nullification right before the time when you're no longer allowed to eat, right after that. Everything is there, you nullify it, so just in case some of those Hummus that you left over for Shabbos morning got spread out somewhere and it ended up under a kid's bed, it's not mine. I nullified it. So instead of doing it right after you burn the Hummus, you're going to do it the next morning. However, you take a look at the bottom of this page that's on the screen, there's a little prayer that we say after we burn the Hummus. You see it? Yehi ratzon l'fanecha. May it be your will. That you say right after you burn the Hummus. So the first paragraph you say the next day, but the last paragraph on this page you say when you burn the Hummus. Because it talks about the burning of the Hummus. It's a nice prayer, actually. Is that understood? No, you repeat it twice. Once after the search on Thursday night, and once on Shabbos at 11:17, or after 11:17, before 12:17. Now, someone's going to say, wait a minute. What's wrong if my wife cooks on Friday a whole chametz meal, and we'll eat it Friday night? What's wrong with that? Why are you telling me that I should just have a few challahs and then come in and eat the rest of the meal? A Pesach meal, what would be so terrible if my wife decided that Friday afternoon she's going to cook a chametz meal? No prohibition involved, absolutely no prohibition involved. So why is that not advisable? The answer is, it's not advisable for the following reason. What are you cooking that in?
An oven that you just cleaned for Passover.
In an oven that you just cleaned for Passover, right? Because you need that oven for Passover. So that oven you can't bake or put chametz in that oven. How about on the stovetop? In what pot are you going to cook that chametz? In a chametz pot. You're putting that on the stove that you already koshered for Pesach. Right? Another problem. What happens if you have a Pesach kitchen like I do? I have a Pesach kitchen. I have a separate kitchen in the other side of the house where we do all our Pesach. The regular kitchen that we have for the rest of the year, we don't kasher. So why can't my wife go ahead on Friday afternoon, make a whole chametz meal, and eat it on paper goods on Shabbos? So why not? You understand my question? Why do we have to go crazy and eat our Pesach meal? I have enough 8 days of non-chametz food. I'd like to get my last chametz meal on Friday night. Well, how could you exchange chicken soup with lakshan, with noodles, without a Friday night without matzah ball soup? Well, you can't have matzah ball soup because that's matzahs. But the point is, you want chametz. What's wrong with it? It makes things very complicated. Number one, again, what are you doing with the rest of the chametz that you don't eat? You're going to leave over on Friday night some of that chametz. What are you going to do with it? Where are you throwing it? Where are you getting rid of it? There's always leftovers. So there's a problem on that Shabbos. There's nowhere to put it. You can't burn it. You can't even flush it down the toilet because it could be a lot. And in what your pot? What's with the pot? Yeah, the pot that my wife cooked it in. Where's that pot going? Now, I want to talk about the sale of Hummus. It's going to be related to this. What happens this year with the sale? When does the sale take effect? Every year it takes effect before the time that you're not allowed to possess chametz anymore. You sold it before 12/17. Before you burnt it, you sold it. Yeah, the stuff that you're going to rebuy after Pesach. You got to do it in the morning of Erev Pesach. This year you can't do Shabbos morning. So when does the rabbi sell the chametz this year? The sale takes effect before Shabbos, because you're not allowed to sell on Shabbos. So it takes effect on Shabbos. So everything that you have, everything that you're going to have, that Shabbos, if it's not sold, it's not going to be able to be sold anymore. So the answer is, technically, if you have a Pesach kitchen, you're not worried about it, and you put out Pesach with paper goods, and your wife can cook and then wash out the pot somehow on Friday afternoon, and somehow you'll finish every drop of soup that's in that pot. I don't know where you're putting the soup, because what happens is she has to put the chametz pot with the sold merchandise. It's got to be in there before Shabbos. You understand? The pots have to be in the sold merchandise, because that you're also selling. So you're selling the chametz pot. It has to be in the sold merchandise before Shabbos kicks in. Where you're storing that soup, for example, on Friday before you serve it on Friday night. You understand what I'm saying? So this whole thing makes no sense. You shouldn't do it. Don't even try to outsmart this. We could probably find a way to do it, but it's so unadvisable that I just don't do it. It's a real problem. It could be halachic, real serious halachic problem if you try to do that. So the bottom line is, the little chametz that you must have, the 3 challahs you buy for Shabbos, that you'll finish both Friday night and Shabbos morning, and the rest of the meal has to be chametz, Pesach. Now, the good news is that everything today, you can get so much kosher with Pesach, you don't even know it's Pesach these days. You go into Aroma, you don't even know it's Pesach. You do? All right, if you do, you know.
We can have 4 loaves instead of 3.
You could have 4, yeah. But you have to finish them. As much as your stomach can handle, you can have. If you can finish it all, you can't leave anything over. That's the key here. That's the point you have to remember.
Rabbi, a question.
Yeah.
I had listened to a webinar from a rabbi online, and he was suggesting, I don't know if this is a good idea or not, I wanted to get your opinion. For Shabbat morning, for example, or even Friday night, oat matzah. Would oat matzah be, because it said it's not really matzah in a sense of, not...
Oat matzah is, why oat? I'm not sure why oat is not kosher with Pesach. Why? What's oats? It's one of the 5 grains, no?
For Pesach, but he was just suggesting that would be...
Why would that be okay? Why is that not kosher for the Seder? Any matzah that you're allowed to eat by the Seder, you're not allowed to eat out of Pesach. So how could that work?
Okay, that's something I heard. I just was curious.
He's suggested oat matzah?
Yeah.
Oats is kosher for, if you make it, you can make matzah out of oats for the Seder. You have 5 grains, right? Wheat, barley, spelt, oats, and what's the 5th? Right. Yeah. Okay.
I have to listen to the webinar again. I just was curious how to find it.
I'm not sure I understand that. Okay.
Thank you.
Rabbi?
Yeah.
Question. So, can you eat, like my wife sometimes for Pesach makes what we call them Pesach rolls out of matzah meal. So it's not matzah, but it's made out of matzah meal. In other words, you can eat them on Pesach, but can you eat them Erev Pesach because of that prohibition on eating matzah?
Right. So it's a. Do you make a motzi on it?
I think I usually do, just because I feel like it's bread.
What is it made of again?
It's made of matzah meal, and I can ask my wife. What is it made of?
Matzah meal, okay, that's the answer. But the question is if it's being made, matzah meal matzah meal that's being cooked, what is it? It's baked? How do you make this thing? With what? How do you mix it? What is it made with? With water? How do you make the dough?
Hold on. So tell me.
Matzah meal, eggs, and water,
Yeah.
and oil.
Matzah meal, eggs, water, and oil, and you bake it
Yes.
you mix it up and you bake it. I mean, they sell them at Aroma too. They're like,
Right.
they call them Pesach rolls or whatever.
I would. It's probably there's a whole discussion about if you're allowed to eat matzah that you cannot, like egg matzah or that type
That's
of
another
matzah.
question.
If you're allowed to eat egg matzah on Erev Pesach, there's different. There's opinions that say you could, but we don't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that because I feel like that's really bad. I mean, it's like
I wouldn't do it. No, I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
But the matzah, it's not a big deal because we're only talking about.
No, I'll tell you furthermore. There is a minig Yisrael, a Jewish minig, to eat chametz on Shabbos morning, meaning on Erev Pesach morning. So it's good to eat chametz to machalas, but be careful. That's it. The leftover crumbs you flush down the toilet, and that's it.
Right.
Then you do the second nullification, and then you're pretty much finished. Anything you can do by what? 11:30, 12 o'clock. The Seder starts at 8. You can have such a shlof that Shabbos afternoon that shall last for a few weeks, right? That's the good news about such a what's it called when it comes out like this. That you come to the Seder really rested up. Usually you come to the Seder with your tail between your, it's a rush like anything. Now, of course, you have to do all your preparations for the Seder on Friday. You have to grind the murr if you're going to grind murr. If you buy horseradish, you just, whatever you're doing to do, you have to do before Shabbos, of course. To make the salt water, you have to make the murr, you have to make the charosas, you have to do all these things Friday afternoon. Okay? Yeah. Ad Mincha on Friday and Shabbos afternoon, that Shabbos, by the way, is Shabbat HaGadol. It's the great Shabbos. The Shabbos before Pesach is known as Shabbos HaGadol, which is a very special Shabbos. We celebrate it. We say the Haggadah by Mincha that afternoon. We don't say the whole Haggadah, but we say from Avadim Hayinu, from the whole Magid, basically. We say during Shabbos HaGadol after Mincha. Then comes the Seder night itself. On Saturday night, the women after Havdalah, not after Havdalah, sorry. We're going to talk about the Havdalah. When do you make Havdalah that time? This, in a case like this.
Sunday.
No, not Sunday. The women will light Yontif candles on Saturday night for the holidays. It starts Pesach, so you have to light candles. What time are you going to light candles? Only after Shabbos is over. Yeah, because on Shabbos, if you light candles, you're violating Shabbos, of course. And you need to have a 24-hour candle in your house because you're not allowed to strike a match on the Yom Tov. So how do you have fire on Saturday night? You have to burn a yahrzeit candle from Friday afternoon, so you have it going, And the same thing, you have to you have to light another yahrzeit candle to have, to the women can light candles Sunday night also. You understand, yeah? Now, what time the Shabbos over then? Somewhere around 8:10, 8:15. You have to look exactly. Which means that you can't start your Seder before 8:10, 8:15. Now here's another problem. There's another problem when Pesach comes out right after Shabbos, is when do you set up your table for the Seder? Usually you set it up the afternoon before the Seder, right? So the minute you invite your guest for whenever and you start right away. This year it presents a problem because you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos to Yom Tov. We just learned that, you remember? In the Mishnah. In our new Mishnah, right? We just learned you're not allowed to prepare from Shabbos for Saturday night. So if you're going to start setting up the table Shabbos at 6 o'clock in the afternoon, what you're doing is you're setting up on Shabbos for after Shabbos, a violation of Shabbos. So either you set it up Friday afternoon. I don't know how you can do that because you need that same table for Shabbos Friday night meal and for Shabbos morning meal. Unless you eat in your kitchen, you can do. There's things you can do. It's not that complicated. But if you have to, absolutely, if you can't do it Friday afternoon, then you have to do it Shabbos after the time, after Saturday night. That's when you start setting up. That means, for example, in my house, we're going to start the Seder on Saturday night. We're doing it here. But if I would do it in my house, and we're going to have it set up before. So if you have a non-Jew come to your house to help you set up, she can do it. If you're in great need and you have a lot of people, you don't want to make them wait to start setting up at 8:15. That means you're not starting till 9:15. A lot of people find that difficult. To start a Seder at 9:15 at night, it's just going, So if you need to do, so you can get non-Jews to set up before Shabbos. Before Shabbos is over. But a Yid is not allowed to do it. Okay, now, the Seder on Saturday night is exactly as every other Pesach night. There's no real changes. No changes at all. Because it's a regular Seder, like every other night, that's it. The 4 cups, the matzah. Let me just tell you, when we talk about the Seder for a few minutes, and I know it's getting late, so I will do this a different time. But because it's before Pesach now, there's 2 things I want you to remember. Make sure you sell your chametz. We're going to send out an email tomorrow about it, but just respond and make sure it's better to come in with your chametz. And you could do it online, but it's even better if you do it in person. And the reason for that is because when you go to the rabbi and you do it in person, he makes a kinyan with you. There's a formal act of acquisition that takes place that only in person can that be done. It could be done online also. So make sure you have matzah shmura. Shmura matzah for the Seder. Why do we have to have shmura matzah for the Seder? What's shmura matzah, first of all? Shmura matzah is like this. There's 2 things about shmura matzah. Shmura means it's guarded. Guarded from when? It says in the Torah, it's a biblical mitzvah, ushmarta mesamatzas, you have to watch and guard your matzahs. What does guard mean? Guard from what? What are you guarding it against? You're guarding it against, it shouldn't become chametz. The flour, before it's baked into matzah, shouldn't become chametz. How does it become chametz? If the flour is going to come in contact with any dampness or water or whatever, and it goes by 18 minutes like that, it became chametz. So you have to make sure that someone's watching it, that it doesn't. When do you have to start watching this flour against it coming in contact with any water so it doesn't become leaven? So there's 2 opinions. One opinion says you have to watch it from the time of harvesting. From the time you harvested it, it has to be constantly under the watchful eye of a competent rabbinic authority that watches to make sure nothing happened with this flour. It didn't come in contact with any, or even the grains, before it was even grinded. Another opinion says you have to watch it from the time of grinding. Now, shmura matzah, when we say shmura matzah, it means, usually the term is referring to shmura from the time of the earlier time, from harvesting. So it's important to have for your Seder such matzah. In addition to that, the shmura matzah that I'm talking about is also round and handmade. Why is it important to have handmade shmura matzah? What's wrong if a machine makes it?
That's a good question.
It's a good question, huh? The answer is, this matzah you're going to use, here's a question. Let me clarify one other thing. Do you have to eat matzah all 8 days of Pesach? What? If do you have to eat chametz on the matzah on the 3rd day of Pesach, 4th day? If you want to eat potatoes, you need to eat matzah. No, you don't have to eat matzah. When do you have to eat matzah? You have to eat matzah the first 2 nights. You have to eat matzah the first 2 nights. That's an absolute obligation. That's a biblical obligation for the Seder. Because if you don't, then you're, that's the mitzvah is to eat matzah. Now, so there's something called matzah's mitzvah. Matzah's mitzvah means the matzah of mitzvah, the mitzvah that the matzah that we're going to eat as in fulfillment of the obligation of eating matzah. When is that? The first 2 nights. That means every matzah that's baked in any bakery in the world, they have to assume that someone is going to eat that at the Seder. Now, it's many of the matzahs that they're baking, people are going to eat throughout Pesach, which is not a mitzvah. But you don't know which matzah is going to be eaten. It's going to end up at a Seder table. So all the matzah that any bakery bakes must be done for the purpose of the mitzvah. You have to have the kavanah, the intention that we're baking this so that people can fulfill the matzah, the mitzvah of matzah. It so happens that the science has not yet figured out a way to get a machine to have that intention. That a machine should be able to have the kavanah that what I'm now making is going to be for the matzah of mitzvah. Who could have such a kavanah? A human being could have such a kavanah, can have such an intention. So therefore, you want your matzah that you're eating at the Seder to be made by human hands when he was rolling it out, and when he was making the holes, and when he was going into the oven, that they had in mind that this is l'shem matzah mitzvah. When you have a human being doing it, you could have that kavanah. And I used to bake matzah in a matzah bakery. I was always in charge, for a number of years I was in charge when I was a yeshiva student. We had 2 days that the whole yeshiva went to the matzah bakery, and we did the baking. We didn't actually put it in the oven because you need an expertise for that. But we helped roll it out, we helped, whatever we can help, we help. And I remember that every single time, the cycle of a matzah bakery is 18 minutes, right? After 18 minutes, you have to clean the sticks because there's little pieces of dough left there. After 18 minutes, it's automatically chametz. If it's not baked yet, you understand? So every matzah bakery has to undergo a thorough cleaning every 18 minutes. Can you imagine that? You have to rub down every stick, and you have to every 18 minutes. It's not easy. So, and every 18 minutes, the mashgiach would tell all the people that are rolling out to do, everyone together, l'shem matzahs mitzvah. And everyone had in mind that what they're rolling out, that it should be for them, because you need that kavanah. So a machine can have that kavanah. Not yet. Maybe robots one day, they'll figure out how to do it. But for now, only human beings can have kavanah. And therefore, for the matzahs mitzvah, you should get Shimura matzah. The round handmade matzah.
Conveyor oven or just one?
What?
Was it a conveyor oven?
No, it was one flat oven. It was 1,000 degrees oven. It was baked within 15 seconds. The matzah was baked. 20 seconds.
Wow.
Maybe not even that. It was so hot and it's thin. Don't forget the dough is very thin by the time it goes into the oven. Within 10, 15, 20 seconds, it was out of the oven baked. So that's why it's important to have Shimura matzah. So if you need Shimura matzah, let me know, and I'll make sure you get at least for your Seder. And I have this custom always to make sure that a couple of hundred people we give matzah to, and they have, and it's a very beautiful thing. Any questions, and if you have any questions, please ask them at this time, because that concludes the part of the pre-Pesach situation. And I didn't get into the Seder tonight, because that would take me another hour, and we don't have another hour. So we'll leave that for a different time. But for now, for the preparation, I covered the unique circumstance of this year, I went through everything. Hopefully it was understood. And if it wasn't, please, now is the time to ask.
Rabbi, on Shabbat, the lighting candles will be 8:11.
Yeah.
The dinner will be at 8 o'clock.
We're not going to start at 8 o'clock. I know that, us Jews, you say 8, they come at 8:30.
Okay.
So I say 8. Here. I'm kidding. I wrote 8 because I want just, but davening, we'll daven first,
Okay.
Yeah, it's a short davening, it's not a long.
Prendemos la vela y después no.
Yeah, but we're going to start the Seder exactly at 8:15. Kiddush will be at 8:15. Because we're going to set up before, we have a group of non-Jewish people here that are going to come and do that for us. And we can also set it up Friday afternoon, just, most of it. Anyone else? By the way,
Friday would be around what time?
but say that again. What's the question? Who's this?
Do you know what time would be Friday lighting candles?
Next Friday, the Friday before Pesach, the day before Pesach. I think it's also about 8:11, 8:10, something like that. It's just a minute before. It's a day before, somewhere around that. I don't have a calendar in front of me, but that's what it is about then. Because we exchanged it. No, sorry. What am I saying? No. I'm sorry. I am very, very sorry. Oh my God. No, Friday night is at 7:11. I'm sorry. Friday night is an hour earlier. Yeah, before sundown, for sure.
7:18.
7:18. I'm sorry. Yes. The reason we light candles Saturday night so late because you have to wait till after nightfall.
7:18. Oh, okay.
Who's asking this question? Who's speaking now? I don't know who this is. Okay, whoever it is, you asked a good question. So Friday night is at 7. Yes, or much earlier. Huh?
I thank you very much. I understand.
Very good. Anyone else? Okay, if no one else has any questions, then I'll wish you all a good night and a good Pesach. I hope you got the basics, and it's somewhat complicated, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. Good night.
Good night, Rabbi.
And
Thank you.
We'll see you tomorrow morning at 7 a.m., everyone.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You're very welcome. Take care.
Thank you.
They sold Shimura Matsura.
Yes. That's Shimura Matsura, yeah. You need at least 3 matzahs for every Seder.
Espérate, para eso hay una-
What?
¿Vas a seguir hablando?
Bueno,
Okay, good night, everyone.
Están preguntando, quiero ir.
Good night, everyone watching here. Okay.